So let's get right into it, into this dream state and reality, specifically reality when you're dreaming, and how to interpret the dream, and how I so far have learned to understand the dream state and what is the dream state and how to interpret it. A lot of people have, whether it's older teachings or better understanding of how to interpret the dreams and what is actually the dream state. Um, Feel free to go into the comment section and give insight. You're more free to than to. and But the dream state is something very complex I've learned as an individual to understand. And I think it's more on dynamics of closer to where the quantum state operates and how your brain, it's not bounded by reality on certain senses and certain dynamics, as in it's not necessarily there's not oxygen, there's certain atoms or combinations of atoms, if you want to be more specific, or there's the absence of the environment in our reality, as in the dream state is it's not there. So to interpret what actually is going on, you have to understand that it's not limited by our current environment, as in how gravity itself bounds us. So when you're in the dream state, I've learned that since it has that it doesn't have that limit as gravity and other extents. It may seem as very chaotic at times if the dream is not just stimulation, a current stimulation of just a dream that is more imaginatory than it is actually the individual trying to see a further version of themselves, or see or extend themselves further than their current state by astral projecting, or um, literally taking your consciousness out your body to the degree where you can feel the separation. I think the feeling is the best way to describe it, because once you're separated, the spirit and the energy is not bounded by the senses that the human body is. So you have to comprehend that, and through the first stages, you would feel that fear of actually entering this state because of the lack of oxygen almost, and that awareness grows some to be fearful of that state, and jump out of it with enough practice and I think patience. Once you start to actually enter it, you'll grow more comfortable and then grow to understand it. Certain dreams might have certain depths, or might feel more intense than other dreams. I've noticed that, and I think that depends on the action or the event within the current, I like to say, light, and I'll explain that later, that you're watching. It's maybe that dramatic that the experience translate into the physical when you actually wake up. But so by me saying that the environment changes in your dream state when you have those dreams where it feels chaotic, as in the environment, it's not even stable itself, where things may be floating or things may be moving obscure to your understanding of current movement, as in when you're awake, a car doesn't float or doesn't move backwards, or whatever is the dynamic that you can see. So once you're able to understand that within your brain, it's important to let your brain understand the information, even though your soul understands the information. So you might spiritually understand something, but since your brain is not in tune to this understanding, it would kind of not dismiss it, because your soul is so if it's passionate enough, it would nudge at your brain enough for you to comprehend the information. But you must break the dynamics within your brain and that wall that kind of has been built, and it's through retraining your brain to understand certain information differently than it has been taught, or maybe not been taught, but just making that comprehension one. And once your brain is able to start comprehending the information from your spiritual understanding or your conscious understanding, you can say that it gets not easier, but the information starts flowing a little bit faster. So once you're in the dream and you see that the environment is changing, don't allow the environment so much to distract you. Move past that and actually focus on the event and the dream that is bringing awareness to you. And the feeling usually guides it. So if you when you wake up, um, if you sit there for a moment and allow the dream to come back into your mind, and when it does, if you follow the feeling, and then the feeling guides you to the moment in the dream that was maybe the most chaotic, or what your spirit, your light is trying to bring awareness to, then that event is what you want to try to focus on and try to understand. And that comes with using other times within your brain where, not that you premonitioned events or seen things occur before they happen, but just had dreams that came into fruition, and how you able to see the difference of the dream, how it depicted it, and how it actually came into reality. And that should be a key to later understanding how to break down your dreams, and the depths of which it tries to elaborate your light. So when I say your light, what I'm saying is, imagine that we're in a room that is completely empty, and you are yourself your own flashlight. And when I say you yourself are your own flashlight, as in you are a light that is emitting forward, or whichever way, whichever direction. It doesn't have to be limited towards being forward. But your light, it's projecting, and your light, it's projected towards wherever it reaches its peak, right? So from a third person perspective, that light has an ending, and from the light perspective, it's just emitting, and it's not aware of its ending on certain dynamics. On certain dynamics it is, or how it continues on, if we don't want to say ending. And so now that you're in this room, and you are this light, and you're emitting your and you're projecting, we all have our own light. So somebody else's light might project or interfere with your light, and that might be an event that happens in your life with an actual individual, or with something with your environment, or some action that self-caused. But through that discrepancy, there's static within your light. So if it is somebody else in your life that is actually causing this this interference, whether it's to progress, whether it's not, or it's you yourself, it's gonna kind of interfere with your light. So this is another light now emitting and passing on to your light. So I think that your dreams, and when you're in the sleep state, your consciousness is seeing these events, right? Because it's not limited by time as your physical state is. So it sees these events that intersect with your light throughout throughout its projection. So as far as it projects, whatever those events and how those events interfere with the light, it's what you are seeing. And I think you can go as far as the light goes as you go, and you can see that future version of yourself to certain degrees, even past versions of yourself, or now that quantum physics is starting to understand how there's many different dynamics that come into play. And I think that's one aspect of the dream state. And what we're seeing when we're in the dream state is events within our life, whether current, past, or future, that are and that are dramatic, or have some kind of meaning, or are just some kind of understanding that's coming into play, some other light, and we are seeing that event occurring. And I think with enough insight and enough patience, you can understand those events better. And I think that within the conscious state, or the spiritual state, or the meditative state, where one is completely trying to become self-aware. And I think once you become aware of your inner self, as they say, or your spiritual self and your conscious self, and once you bridge those dynamic, as they say, mind, body, and soul, the ones who have this knowledge openly discuss it, and the ones who have chose to disguise the information for their greed or understanding, or whatever their excuse is. So we would say that I think once you reach that understanding with yourself, you can transfer into many dynamics, as in you can astral project yourself without locality, as in as long as your body is in a safe environment or where you feel safe and you grow this intuition, you are able to consciously now move without the bonding of your body. And most, of course, many have teach this. I'm not the first. There's thousands throughout history that have spoken on this, and I'm just speaking relevancy towards an individual that is trying to reach this enlightenment without no selfishness, but just to understand. And through my understanding, it is there. There is something to it, and it's not just fairy tale, or it's not just religion. It's not bounded by those limit names, those names that don't do the understanding justice, because it's so dynamic that. For one to say they understand completely, the physical will humble them, and the spiritual will completely. And it's a growing process, and it's always going to change and evolve. And that's something that we have to grow to understand. It's something that we ourselves, I feel, is causing. Moving forward with that understanding, once you're able to not limit yourself consciously from certain manipulations that have been put into your mind, I think you grow you and yourself, your natural self-awareness just grow kind of one with each other, and you are able to process information a little more differently, with maybe not the ego involved, or maybe just a more patient version of yourself and tuned. And you will see how things are just flowing, and it's like the future you or the past you or even the present you just speaking at a at a higher vibration. And that's the best way for me to describe it. But so the dream state is something that a lot of people don't question, that don't want to know about, that are fine with the story and the fairy tales that have been fed and told by other men, and have their own self understanding, whether it's not that, and that's fine. And for the ones that do question reality or the non-reality or what is around them, there are so many questions to ask yourself as an individual. So I think it's important to root your questions, whether they're one by one, but starting with the most basic, if it sounds basic, but with the most grounded question that you can answer yourself, with putting in work and understanding, of course. And once you grow that awareness, then you follow that question up with the other question, and that's up to you to decide what the questions are exactly, and how you choose to ask yourself these questions. And once you find the right questions, the follow-up questions should be easier to find and understand. And do not fear the understanding. Don't allow others to impose their understanding on you. Grow your own understanding to the point where you're aware of your environment on at least what you consider the highest standard, or a standard that is above, or not even just above, just for you to understand. And that's key behind it all.